Hello, all. I recently finished playing Resident Evil 9 and I love it. I had a great time playing it. Of course, I did have my gripes, but overall, I'd say solid 8.5, almost 9 out of 10. It was nice. I had a fun time playing it, hoping for possibly some DLC, but I wanted to kind of talk about Resident Evil just like I recently talked about God of War. And that is discussing what's next. What are we looking forward to? Right. So coming off of the Resident Evil 7 to Resident Evil Village hype, because I might be the only one, but Resident Evil 7 is my favorite Resident Evil game. uh, so Ethan Winter's story, his daughter Rose, has been something that I was somewhat invested in. And it seems that with Resident Evil 9, we're just going back to the original, the main two characters, Chris and Leon, which is great. Raccoon City is iconic. um, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today is what I'm looking forward to as a fan of the series, of the whole thing, right? Of course, my favorite character is Wesker. so, and I don't think I'm alone on that. Something that you see in all the comments of all the games where since he disappeared is where's Wesker? Is Wesker going to make an appearance? Where's Wesker? We need Wesker. Can Wesker be playable in the DLC? So as a fan, I'd like for whatever the next thing is, even if it's a retcon, to give us Wesker back. Let's say when we thought he died, it was just a really good clone, so we could get Wesker back scheming and plotting like the good old days. Even I was somewhat disappointed, as a Wesker fan, when we got Xeno in Resident Evil 9, and we're like, okay, he's a clone. And then if you get the good ending, after doing blankety blank blank, he ends up dying. He gets killed by Victor, and it's like, oh man, not only is Wesker gone, but now the clone is gone. So we just really aren't going to get Wesker. So that's that's been the sad part about being a Wesker fan, is that your favorite character hasn't been around for a long time. But something that I would love to see is some interaction, some complete crossovers. It seems like they've been teasing for a while. We haven't gotten Chris and Leon in the same game, I think, since Resident Evil 6. And though they were both playable, they had completely different things going on. And of course, they did have the cool cutscene where they got to fight and were pretty much equals. You got the stronger Chris versus the faster Leon. It was great. So what I would like going forward is, if let's say the next game, not even DLC for this one, but let's say for the next game, we have something with Leon and Chris working together. It involves Wesker. I don't know. Let's get random. Let's just break the story altogether. Maybe this is a horrible take. I'm just nerding out right now. What if we got some form of Nemesis and some form of Mr. X? Maybe a hybrid creature of the two, Mr. X Nemesis. Who cares? For them to fight together. Nemesis and Mr. X at the same time. You have Chris fight Mr. X. You have Leon fight Nemesis. Those are just some things that come to mind. It might be nice to get Jill back, maybe even Ada Wong back into the story. They're getting older. So I personally think, considering the bad ending of Resident Evil 9, I'm like, we definitely know which one of these is canon, but let's just say I don't believe Leon and Chris are able to die until we get them in a game together, working together. That's my own head canon. I have no reason to believe that. Other than that, I think there's still so much story left to do, so much chaos to cause, that they wouldn't risk either of those characters permanently. And I don't believe this is a franchise where legacy replacements are going to work, where you're really going to get Chris and Leon training up the next generation and then they die and then we get them later. I don't think that's going to happen. People barely warmed up to Ethan. And I personally, I enjoyed the Winter Story, but it was a separate thing. So going forward with Resident Evil, I'd like to see them tie all this stuff together outside of just having uh, Umbrella Corporation be behind everything. I'm like, let's get this a little bit closer. Let's bring Rose into the story with Leon and Chris. Chris already knows Rose. He already aware of that. So I'd like to mix these three together in some capacity. Give us Wesker back. You can have Wesker. Uh, hey, here's an idea. Might not even be a good one, but here's an idea. What if we have Wesker going after Rose and actually turning her into a villain? Just an idea. Like I said, might not be a good one. A clone of Wesker, at least. We want Wesker back. In the middle of all the chaos, Victor's still alive. Oh, no, Victor is not alive. Never mind. Different ending. But there's a lot of things. There's a lot of loose threads around, even in some flashbacks. I'd love to see some villain interactions, possibly in some flashbacks. We can get, I believe it was Spencer and Mother Miranda, and maybe even Wesker, some mixture of that interacting with each other. Of course, we already have Wesker and Spencer knowing each other. I want to see Mother Miranda in the mix, Lady Dimitrescu, everyone's favorite female villain of the Resident Evil series. Let's kind of bridge all this together. That's kind of what I'd want as a Resident Evil fan going forward. So that's pretty much it. Just hearing me ramble. So just to talk about Resident Evil 9, I absolutely I love the story. They did a decent job of mixing the characters so that you can get the horror aspect and the action aspect. Of course, my gripe with Resident Evil as a whole, but that's just the way those games play, is that sometimes it takes so long to traverse and maneuver and find gear and find the scraps and things like that, that I feel like I'm on a scavenger hunt more than I'm playing a game. That it kind of breaks the immersion at times where I'm like, this puzzle is lasting a bit too long. This navigating is taking a bit too long for what I consider fun. The game overall, like I said, solid 8.5, almost 9 out of 10. I loved it. But at certain points, it felt slow. um, Also, the simple fact that they kind of hinted in one of the endings, spoiler alert, by the way, that I believe it was Emily, the blind girl, they were able to rescue her. She might be able to play a role in this, and this tying all these threads together aspect of the story. But yeah, overall, it was a nice game. I enjoyed it. So let me hear from you. Did you enjoy Resident Evil 9? Is What are your thoughts going on some of my wild and crazy ideas? Um, am I cooking or not? And either way, what are some of the things that you'd like to see in a future installment of Resident Evil, whether it's DLC, whether it's a solo game, a spin-off? What's something you'd like to see? That's it. Later.